Hello everybody, this is Mr. Cloud. In this video I'm going to walk you through how to create the court chart to be able to explain the structure of the court system, which is one of our standards. This is from standard 10A, the first in the lessons about the court system. So to do this chart, you can either do this on paper or digitally or in your mind, however you need to do this. It's going to be a chart that has five columns, and you're going to need the name column plus 3 rows for federal courts, and then 5 additional rows for Virginia state courts. All right, so the title of the column will be name of court, then fed or state. Is it a federal or state court? Next row or next column is jurisdiction. What kind of jurisdiction does it have? Next one is judge or justice. Remember, this is easy to remember because only Supreme Courts have justices. Everything else has a judge. And finally, jury. All right, so the court chart for my class goes from top to bottom, from the most powerful federal court to the least powerful of the Virginia state courts. And at the top, of course, is the U.S. Supreme Court. Please make sure to always put U.S. Supreme because there is a Virginia Supreme Court as well. Of course, it's a federal state. Put F there. All Supreme Courts have both types of jurisdictions. However, you may want to remember that they're mostly appellate, like 99% appellate with a little original jurisdiction. And this is super easy to remember, justice. And no Supreme Court has a jury. Next one is going to be the U.S. Courts, Court of Appeals. They're a federal court. They have only appellate jurisdiction. They have judges, but no juries. Appellate courts don't have juries typically. And finally, the last of the federal courts is the U.S. District Court. It is a federal court. It has only original jurisdiction. They have judges, and they have juries. Now, this is kind of tricky. Sometimes you might say maybe, because you can have a jury there, but defendants at these trials can also waive their rights to juries, so they can just be heard by a judge. But they definitely offer folks juries. All right, so those are the 3 levels of federal courts. The next one is going to be a state court, and this is going to be the Virginia Supreme Court. It is a state court, just like the federal U.S. Supreme Court. It has both types of jurisdiction. And remember, they're mostly appellate with a little bit of original jurisdiction as well. And because they are Supreme Courts, they have justices and never a jury. No juries on Supreme Courts. Next one is going to be the Court of Appeals of Virginia. It's slightly differently worded than the federal version. Is state court. It only has appellate jurisdiction. And of course, I would misspell appellate. And then this court has judges, and no appellate court has jurisdictions typically. And here's where it gets a little dicey, and it's starting to get hard. This is the circuit court in Virginia. Our circuit court is a state court, has both types of jurisdiction. It's mostly original with a little teeny tiny bit of appellate. You can appeal misdemeanor cases from the lower level general district court to this court, but it's mostly original jurisdiction for major civil cases and felony criminal cases. They have a judge preside over each of these circuit courts, and there is a jury. And then the smallest of the Virginia courts is called the general district. Please put general district and not district, because that way you won't confuse it with the federal U.S. District Court. General District Court is a very small, little tiny state court. It only has original jurisdiction. There's a judge, but unlike most of its original jurisdiction brethren, it does not have a jury. It's just you and a judge and the police officer who gave you the ticket. There is another one that's sometimes mentioned. It's just a different version of the General District Court, and it's the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court. It has all the same things as the General District Court, but it's slightly different. It's a state court. It has only original jurisdiction. They have a judge. but no jury. So what happens here is the judge who works on the General District Court would also sometimes work as a juvenile domestic relations court judge. There's no jury in this situation. It's all very confidential, very hush-hush. It's only for people who get in trouble below the age of 18, are also very sensitive family matters. It's handled by a judge and lawyers, but no jury, and it's not open to the public. Whereas the General District Court is super open to the public. There's no lawyers there. Again, it's just kind of you and a police officer dealing with whatever kind of small crime you committed, a parking ticket or speeding or something like that. All right, so that's the court chart. You should be able to do what I just did from memory and then be able to explain it like I did as well. Thank you for watching.